What is it, Waffle Gang? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. Yesterday, over on YouTube membership, we had AC Big Boy join us. Thank you so much for your support. It's absolutely amazing of you. And to everyone for coming here on the daily to support this channel with your liking, your shares, and just being here and watching these videos is absolutely amazing of you. So thank you so much. Don't forget to let me know what you're doing today while you're watching this video, as it really cheers me up. I love hearing what you guys are doing while you're listening. It's absolutely amazing. And with that being said, let's just get on with today's stories. Much love, guys. And our first story comes from Efficient Quail. Am I the arsehole? I almost died at work today, and my wife is angry I didn't ask about her day when I got home. Am I the arsehole? I had an accident where I lost control of an elevated work platform, EWP, on dangerous terrain whilst working today. The EWP slid down the hill, did a 180-degree turn for a row of trees whilst I was elevated at approximately 5 meters. It was harrowing, and I was left shocked as it happened very quickly and felt like I was going to tip the machine. On return home, I had a shot, one, of vodka to steady my nerves and told my wife. She was cooking dinner and said some conciliatory things when I told her about the incident and asked if I was going to keep working this job. She then asked me to move out the kitchen while she cooked. I got visibly upset. Then she said, "Well, you haven't asked me about my day. I had to look after our daughter all day. We're in lockdown for COVID and not allowed to leave the house at the moment." She then told me to look after our daughter, who was having a tantrum. She has since doubled down on her position and said she has exciting news that she now wasn't going to tell me. I said that was her decision. I'm angry that it doesn't seem like she cares that I almost died, and I don't think me being impolite and not asking her about her day is significant in this context. Am I the asshole? Now, reading this, I can see you had an absolutely awful experience flying down this hill and almost dying from it pretty much. So I can see why you've come in upset, you're pretty shook up, and your wife isn't paying much attention to it. Maybe she just didn't see it as much of an issue. Maybe she didn't see it like when you came home and you said, "Oh, I almost died today." She just sort of played it off as like, it's one of those things. Not as like, not taking it properly seriously, you know. Like sometimes when I cross the road and a car just flies past me when I wasn't looking, and I say to people, "Oh, I almost died." That kind of way, I think. Piss poor example, fair I know, but I'm going to be kind of controversial here, and I'm going to go with, not proxy dinner, but I'm thinking outside the box here. I'm going to go with an everyone sucks here, because we don't know the full story to this. We don't know about their home life or anything like that. So what I'm thinking is that, you know, she's used to being at home all the time, looking after the kid, doing the cooking and all this kind of stuff, while he just comes home and is having his wins, drinking his alcohol on the side. And she's thinking in her head like, "You think you've had a bad fucking day? I've been home dealing with tantrums all day." And it's probably sick to the teeth of it, you know. Don't get me wrong, I'm not just hating on the guy for the sake of it. I'm thinking there's just a bad family dynamic with no communication, proper communication, you know. So it's created this dynamic where they're just poking holes at each other, you know, just because they're sick of it. Could be some bad takes in there. I'm sure you guys are pouring them out to me. You usually do. But let's go to the comments below to see what they say. A bunch of letters says, "Not the asshole, her priorities are whack." Capricorn says, "Not the arsehole, she maybe didn't understand the severity of the situation." And Oika replied, "I guess that's possible. I explained it to her in detail, and I'm sure I used the phrase, 'almost died,' in our second conversation, no. I also said I felt like she didn't care if I died, and she actually didn't contradict in the heat of the moment." I don't know what I'm doing here, says Not the arsehole. Maybe she didn't quite understand the severity of the situation. I mean, I know nothing of your work, but your explanation of the incident literally didn't raise any "oh my god" factor in responses. Only reason why I know it was severe is because you said you almost died. Maybe she was just being dense in her response and didn't register, and now she's being stubborn and doubling down to try and save face. Just Me says, "Did everyone just completely overlook the fact that the entire time you was relaying his experience, that child was standing in the room throwing a tantrum?" And Sour Skittle says, "Everyone sucks here, and here's why. When I had a near-death experience, I hugged on my kids for a whole hour at least, not ignored them to drink alcohol. You said she consoled you whilst cooking dinner, whilst a toddler is screaming. She even asked if you planned on keeping the job. Then you sat there, watching her be your domestic slave and cook you a meal, whilst still ignoring your child. What did you expect, thanks to surviving bluff child? She was still actively dealing with the tasks at hand. You could have continued talking about it later in the evening. She got upset because you didn't consider that she had a crazy day, good or bad, because she's stuck at home 100% of the time, during a pandemic, taking care of your child in home. The stress could have just hit her that she almost lost you as well, and she might handle stress poorly. But so do you with your choice of drinking to feel better. She might have had news, pregnancy, a family death, your toddler might have pooped on the potty for the first time. Instead of reciprocating, you decided to sulk. She could have been more lovey-dovey with everything I've stated above. It's understandable that she isn't. Doesn't mean she's not the asshole too, but you're too nearsighted to see that. Sit down and have a conversation with your wife, where she isn't busy cooking, feeding, you and your child. Talk to her like an adult. Now, I can see this room going both ways. Let's can see me getting the old classic simp comment, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. And whilst we're in between stories, let me know what you guys think about the current music. I've changed it up to have a few different tracks playing, as we listen to stories. I had a couple of comments in the last video that, it's quite dramatic and it made one person anxious. But I'd like to know all your opinions on it too, so I can get some feedback, because feedback is very important to this channel. I consider this channel yours as much as mine, so let me know. And our next story is from Friendly Tennis. Am I the arsehole for planning to immigrate in order to avoid paying off my student loans? My friend thinks so. I'm the child of immigrant that has lived his entire life in the US, so I've always been one of those bilingual and bicultural kids. Recently, I've started to appreciate the privileges presented to you when you're from an immigrant family. The biggest one by far is that your world is much bigger than that of any other people's. I have both US and EU citizenship, which is basically most of the developed world, and I have all the sweet benefits offered to the citizens of both places. I'll graduate college in May 2021, but I've been dreading the thought of paying off my student loans for a while now. However, I found a pretty sweet loophole, which is only available for people in my shoes. I could simply immigrate from the US to Europe, pay off my loans through IBR, aka legally not pay anything, and just enjoy life in Europe. My plan is both legitimate and legal. When I told my plans to my college friend, he thought I was joking, and then he got mad at me when he realized that I'm serious. He basically said that my actions are unfair to those who can't leave America and have to live with their loans for decades. Although he's more progressive than me politically, he said I will be a burden on American taxpayers, who will have to pay for me and other people from immigrant families who take advantage of the good things America offers, and then goes back when it's time to return the favor. So my friend basically said that I'm using my child of immigrants privilege to work my way around the system. But I feel like what I'm doing is totally legitimate. It's not like the entire student loans crisis is the fault of people like me. It's the fault of the system which encourages young people to make financially life-altering decisions that are made when they should be only focused on their education. Ever since I was young, it was pumped into me that I need to go to college to have a chance at having a good life. So I went to college, I'll soon get my degree, and I will now do what I must to have a good life. I'm going to be fascinated to see the comments on this one because, in some ways, I totally agree that the education system, both the UK and the US, is way too expensive for people. And youngsters are taken advantage of with this system. But at the same time, should you be taking out this debt and not paying it back is a whole bit of a thing, right? So we're going to jump straight to the comments with this one to see what they say. JM Golden says, it's not a victimless crime what you're doing. You took a slot that could have been given to some other deserving students who's willing to pay for their education. You've gained knowledge and skills that you have no intention of redistributing back into the US economy. So the least you could do is pay for the skill set you agreed to pay for when you signed up for this. Finally, it's true, your loan will be assumed as a federal debt, and the rest of the US taxpayers will take on that burden. In short, there is no reasonable explanation for your actions other than you being a self-interested arsehole who has no regard for anyone else. Absolutely, you're the arsehole. Manti Rakofta says, oh yeah, wash your hands of the whole issue. You're the arsehole. Where do you think the money comes to cover your loans in the first place? RB says, legal doesn't equal ethical. Also likely not legal. You're the arsehole. Fresh Air Inspector says, not the arsehole. US college fees are generally stupidly exorbitant. I think your friend is rightly jealous. Leslie Laugh says, of course you're the arsehole, but you're going to do it anyway, so you might be just posting this for a little attention. Picachinto says, not the arsehole, the exclusive arseholes are the universities with the unnecessary, exorbitant costs and loan companies. Good for you. All students and former students should simultaneously stop paying their loans, bring the system to a grinding halt, and force it to change. I'm the Dark Agent says, you're the arsehole. Do you think your income outside the US is excluded from federal tax filing and consideration for income-based federal programs? And Pessimistic Cupcake says, the costly education system in the US is extremely inflated, and you would have gotten a similar education for cheaper anywhere in the EU. Not the arsehole, and education shouldn't put you into crippling debt. Now, as I thought, it could go potentially both ways, so I'd like to know your thoughts on this. And also, what is like loans compared to the UK? I assume it sounds like they're a lot more than they are in Europe. Interesting. Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next one is from Green Radioactive. Am I the arse for getting upset that some random dude struck up a conversation with my SO? My wife and I go to the same gym. Today I noticed some bald guy chatting to her while she was working out. I usually didn't do anything because she can take care of herself, but in a gym, I feel it's a little different. Gyms are notorious of being full of creepy, testosterone-filled apes who unashamedly hit on female users. I was really annoyed by this and went to talk to her to discreetly ask if everything was okay and to show the guy she wasn't alone. Afterwards, my wife was livid and asked why I did that. She said he wasn't a creep, and if he was, she would have told him to get lost. I don't think my reaction was unwarranted. So, am I the asshole? Edit. Okay, that was quick. I get it. Sob the asshole. I'll rein in my reactions. Edit 2. Wow, this really turned into a shit show. I should point out that 1. I went to ask her if she was fine and left, and went back to my own stuff, and 2. I should have pointed out my wife rarely picks up on people with bad intentions. In our previous gym, one of the staff there was an utter pig, and she thought he was okay. Even after I pointed out he was awful, she eventually found out it was more than right, but didn't admit it. But I think the thing is, she's going to find this out on her own, and even if she doesn't pick up on it straight away, she will realize in the end. And I mean, she's in a gym. What's going to happen? What is OP expected to happen here? The creepy dude, in air quotes, is going to talk to her, and then what else could happen? Flirt with her at the worst. And that's it. And assuming you trust your wife, she isn't going to do anything, right? So I don't know why he's getting so upset in this story. And I love it that he calls them all testosterone-filled apes, yet he's getting really possessive. Let's have a look at the comments to see what they say. Propesculous Corvid says, you're the arsehole. Did you urinate on a leg as well to mark your property? Black Morticia says, you're the arsehole. For someone who's so concerned with testosterone-filled apes, you sure are rather possessive of your wife having simple conversations with other men. KM89 says, you're the arsehole. Did your wife give you any indication at all that she needed help? Or did you just assume she couldn't handle the situation? Virulenza says, you're the arsehole for thinking that all females at the gym need someone to help and get rid of creeps. You felt threatened by this dude talking to your wife. I think that's what you should be examining here, not whether or not you are the arsehole. Singing Stream says, you're the arsehole, yes. Your wife is an individual human being, not your property. She can choose whether she wants to talk to someone or not, and doesn't need you acting like a jealous teenager. Ottoman Satire says, and quotes, gyms are notorious for being full of creepy testosterone-filled apes. And then says, that's called protecting my boy. Now, what do you guys think of OP and how they should have handled it? Obviously, they're going to be the asshole in this situation. Anyone else got anything else to say? But how could OP deal with his insecurities in the future is obviously something that really bothers him, so how could he deal with those? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 3. And our next story is from Captain Jack is a fart face. Would I be the arsehole for sending a neighbor a cease and desist letter? Last fall, we moved into a new house, and less than 2 weeks later, had a baby. We were pretty focused on the whole parenting thing, and failed to notice how often the neighbor on one side was using our property for several things without any kind of permission or discussion. It started with his kids spending their days in our driveway drawing with sidewalk chalk. We had to ask them to stop because we seriously feared running them over when backing out the garage, as they have absolutely no supervision of regards for cars. They stopped drawing and started using our garage door as a bumper stop while riding their scooters and bikes. They physically bashed into the garage door and dented it. I asked them to stop. After a dozen or so instances, they finally stopped. In the spring, we noticed that the dad was parking his trailer on our side of the property, between our two driveways. The property line is very clear with fences and different types of landscaping. In addition, he was putting his garbage cans through our gravel and making huge tracks. As we're in the middle of a pandemic and we have a baby, we decided to write a note and leave it with our information, while also lining the property line with large rocks. Never heard from them, but they had moved the rocks into a pile on the front of our side of the property. We moved the rocks back again and thought that we made our position very clear. At the beginning of June, the dad/husband came and rang our door. He proceeded to tell us that because he's parked this trailer like that since he moved in and no one has cared before, so we can't care either. At no point did he ask if he could park on our side or use our property. He said it's never been a problem and I should be able to do it. We politely said we did not give him permission to do so and explained that we intended to landscape the area and his trailer and use of our property would ruin the landscaping we had planned. The entire conversation was difficult because he spoke over me the entire time and talked to me like a child. At the end of the confrontation, he said we were rude neighbors and stormed off. Since then, he parks further over, moves our landscaping rocks constantly and aggressively moves his garbage cans through the gravel, leaving marks like he was zigzagging back and forth. This week I started taking photos of proof of his parking and the way he's ruining our gravel with his garbage cans. He came out and glared at me. I very nicely again asked him to stop. He replied, "Why?" And when I said it's my property and we asked him not to, he replied, "Whatever," and walked away. Now we come to today. I'm done. I'm so frustrated that this guy feels like he's entitled to unquestioned use of property that is not his. And now, we do have an update to this post too, which we'll go to in a second, but let's have a look straight away at a couple of the comments. The Cookie Monster says, "Not the arsehole. Sounds like you exhausted your options up until this point. But what would the cease and desist letter accomplish? Well, you haven't notarized and mail it with a signature required to prove you received it. What will the consequence be if you persist? Aside from pictures, you should put up a camera. If he causes any real damage, then you're going to want a film of him doing it. Can you put in a more permanent solution like cemented posts instead of the rocks? Short of them moving, I'm not sure you'll ever be at peace as long as they're your neighbors." Magical Glitter Bitch, great name, says, "Not the arsehole, time for cameras and a lawyer letter." And Lady Rainicorn says, "Not the arsehole, he sounds as though he has no respect or regard for you or your property and hasn't listened when you've reproached him about it several times. Sounds like it has gone on far too long and you have every right to begin to take further action." Now let's head on over to the update post to see what's happening there. It's a very happy update. I drafted a letter with some legal assistance. Prior to sending it, I wanted to ensure I had proper cameras in the event he decided to make things worse. When I installed the camera, the neighbor must have realized why it was installed because they stopped doing all the annoying stuff. Then about a month later, they listed their house for sale. They'd moved out and we don't have to deal with their entitled arsehole attitude anymore. I appreciate all the assistance and support as I was really unsure if I'm going in the right direction. Edit. I want to clarify, I do not believe that the neighbor moved because of anything I did or asked him to stop doing. I think he'd been planning to move for some time and was just an absolute dick of a person. They didn't move because of me, and even if they did, they sold the house for $200,000 more than they bought it 3 years ago, so he is not some victim. I do appreciate all the kind words, and also bummed that so many people have shitty neighbors as well. Now you guys know I love a Nightmare Neighbor post. I was just looking up subreddit straight after this. I thought, well, there's got to be a subreddit for Nightmare Neighbors, right? But as you may or may not have heard previously, I love, in the UK, a program called Nightmare Neighbors, like Nightmare Landlords. There's a whole series of different nightmare people, and I love watching. It's so petty sometimes, especially when it comes to like boundary lines and stuff like that, how people squabble over it. But obviously not in this case. This guy was very clear in what he wanted to do and all that kind of. But I would love to know if you guys had any like Nightmare Neighbors in the past. Give me those Nightmare Neighbor stories, please. And let me know what you guys think of this story. Once again, guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you have enjoyed today's stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And just a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. It really does mean the world to me. And I hope you really do know that, because I know I say it a lot, but I sincerely mean it. So thank you so much. I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.